Hi guys, welcome back to Java Full Stack Made Easy REST API 3. In this session again we will talk about interacting with REST API. In previous session, if you remember, I have already told you about interacting with the REST API, where we retrieved all the data from the REST API. That means all card details from a REST API, and also we used a post method. So get and post, we are done with that. In this session we will be talking about the delete functionality, then get by ID and update in a REST API. So without wasting the time, let's get started with the next concept. So yeah, an important thing is that if we are communicating with the REST API, obviously we need what? We need the REST API to be up and running. So I'll go to my HTTP demos. Here I will start the REST API. And to start the REST API, we know that we have to hit a command called as JSON-server --watch, right? So JSON-server --watch. The file name is db.json. Fine. So you can see that it has the API is up and running now. So I'll just minimize this. Do not close that API. If you close that API, then obviously you will not be able to interact or communicate with your API. Fine. So now the API is up and ready. And yeah, also let's start the Postman so that we can test our applications, the API is up or not. So I would like to just do a get and see whether my API is ready or not. So you can see that the API is ready and I have the details that I have stored in the previous session. So advantage of storing the data in an API. If this was an array, then I would have lost this data that I have stored before. So let's talk about this delete functionality, where we were deleting the data from an API by using an ID there, right? So let's go to the code part and understand how are we going to delete the data. So this is again a continuation of the previous session. So I have all the previous code readily available. So I'll just do a JSON I'll just do a ng serve -o to get this application up and running. And now the next thing is that I'll go to the service and add the functionality. The delete functionality should be added now, right? So that this, I'm expecting this to show me the data. Let us check why is it not showing us the data, although the API is up and running. Fine. So we have 4 details already retrieved to us. Oh sorry, this was delete and I have deleted one data anyways, no problem. Let's hit send. Looks good. Here I should get 3 details now. That is coming up. And let me once check, did I change something in the app.html where I'm not getting the data for display. So this was let car of cars, that's fine. And let's go to the app.typescript and let's check whether the get function is called or not. So this dot get cars is called. So because this dot get cars is called, it is printing me the console dot log. Fine. Let's also check if there is any error here. There's no error. So it should actually show me the data. The data is not binding in here. Let's see what is the issue with this. I'll go to my HTML and check whether I'm getting the details or not. So I'll just go here and type in cars dot length to know whether at least I'm getting the length of that array. Okay, now I'm getting the length, also I'm getting the data. That's strange. Anyways, that's fine now. Now what I'm gonna do is let's implement the delete functionality here. Fine. So I will add up a delete functionality here. I can create different components and create routing for that as well. But as for now, since the focus is on the delete part, let's focus on that itself. In the later sessions, we might focus on the creation of different routes and components. So let's go for a delete functionality, where I'll just simply copy paste the add stuff whichever which I have done before, because most of the URL are same itself. So I'll just call it as a delete car, And we know that for delete functionality we would require a ID, right? So if you see this here, you need an ID. So the argument will be ID, okay, of type string. So it's a string ID that I have stored here, right? That will be of type string. And instead of this post method, it is going to be a delete method. And what this delete method is going to return us, it is not returning us anything, right? If you see it here, the delete method, yeah, it is returning us an object. So if you wish to show that object, you can show that object as well. If you don't want to display what object is stored, then you can simply remove this observable from here, or you can also type in any type of data it can return. Fine. So then it is cars and slash ID has to be given there. That means a path variable has to be passed to this URL. So while passing the path variable to the URL, you have to always ensure that you don't take this single quotes here. You always ensure that you go for a backtick. If you don't have a backtick, then passing the path variable will not be possible for you. So I'm passing the path variable. That means whatever ID is passed by the user, that ID has to be given here. And the syntax is you give it as dollar brackets. That's it. So you pass in the ID here. If the same thing is done within the single quotes, it will not work. It will just consider this ID as a string path itself. It will consider it as dollar ID only. So to ensure that it is a path variable that will be passed during the runtime, then you give it in backticks. Fine. So that's one thing. And the second thing is that it does not take any argument. So we are done setting up the delete in service. Now the next thing is that we have to consume this, and obviously for consuming a delete we would require a delete template also, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'll be creating a button with each of this the table that is displayed here. With each of that I'm gonna just display everything in here. So I'll go to the app.html, and since I have the data presented here, I want to have a delete button with every single thing here. So let's create a delete button for each row. So I'll be creating a button, and upon click of this particular button, a delete data has to be called. That means let's say delete cars has to be called. Let's call it as delete. Now when we are deleting the car, you notice that it requires an ID, and in the service method we have already given that it takes an ID as its parameter here, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'll simply say this ID, whatever a user is passing in here, that has to be passed as an argument to this function, so that I can track this ID there. So I'll simply copy this and go to the app.typescript, and let's go for the delete car functionality. So here I'll just put a comment, call it as delete car. Since I'm writing everything in the same component, that's why I'm putting up the comments. If I create different components, I'll not be doing that. Fine. So this takes an ID of string type. That's done. Now I have to subscribe to the service that is already created in my car service. So it is simple, again the same, this dot car service dot delete car. Delete car takes an argument which is ID, in our case this ID, which will be given from here. Fine. So whatever user selects, that ID will be given, and then we have to subscribe to this. Subscribe, we know that it takes two arguments. One is it can return us the data upon successful fulfillment of a promise, or else it might give us an error. Fine. So if there is an error, I just want to do a console.log so that I can trace that error, console.log error. And if the data is given to me, I just want to print an alert message saying data deleted. Fine. So that's it. Let's save it and test our application now. Let's go to the API. Looks good. We have the delete button with every single car available there. I'll click on this delete. I click OK, and yes, this data is deleted, but because there is some issue over here, that's why the data is being not reflected immediately. And so you can see that the data is gone, and I'll go to Postman, and then I will go for a get method. I retrieve it, and there we go, the details are deleted. So this way we can implement the delete functionality. So I'll just put up everything into the repository, whatever things I have done here. And the first thing that I'll give you is the service where I've implemented this functionality, delete cars. So let's go to the repository, and this is our day 67. So let's create a repository, day 67, day 67, demo 1, delete. And this is our service, right? So car hyphen service dot typescript. This is the service, and for this your JSON server should be up and running. Then the app.html. So here is my app.html, and then the app.typescript. Alright, so these are the three files that I have modified: the service, HTML, and the TypeScript. Fine. And I'll write a note again. For this, JSON server should be up and running. Ensure JSON server is running. Okay, for that what you have to do, JSON hyphen server hyphen hyphen watch, which we have already discussed in our previous sessions. Now the next thing that I would like to implement is gonna be about uh, the search. I want to search the data based on the ID provided, right? So get by ID is something which I want to implement. So let's go ahead and go to the car service, and then here I want to perform a search by ID, which will actually help me to update as well, because for updating we need the ID and we need the previous data as well, right? So I'm gonna do a search by ID. Okay, search car by ID, and that also takes an ID, and this is gonna be a get method instead of a delete. It is going to be a get method, and this will return me a car object, and once again the backticks, and instead yeah, so this is the URL, that is get by ID's URL is same as delete by ID. So instead of this delete, if I do it get by ID, car ID 1 does not exist as of now, so it says not found, and car ID 2, that should be there, so you can see that car ID 2 is found. So get by ID is same as the delete by ID itself, the URL would be same. So the URL I am keeping it as it is with backticks because it requires a path variable, and then I have created a method. So my method is up and working fine. So the next thing is that I need a search text box in which I'm gonna insert the ID, and upon click of the search button I want to show the data that is retrieved from the API. So here I'll go and yeah, I'll try to create the button here, search car by ID. Fine. So the below code would be search car by ID. So for searching the car by ID, first of all, what I require is I require a input type is equal to text, right, where the user is gonna enter the ID. So input type will be text, and I will perform a two-way data binding where a user is gonna provide me the car ID. So for two-way data binding, we know that we have to pass in the banana in a box, so ng model. If you remember, while creating this project itself, I have already included a forms module in my app.module.typescript. So you can see that forms module is already added, so there should not be any problem when we are implementing a two-way data binding. So I want something like a search ID to be given by the user. So user is gonna give me a search ID. So let's create a variable here in the TypeScript. This will be for search by ID. So I'm gonna write that everything related to that here. So there will be a search ID. As for now it will be a blank variable. Fine. And obviously it has to be present within the class provided here. So this is about the search by ID. So I do have that variable. Now let's come up here. The error is gone. Now let's create a button. Upon click of this button, we have to search the data, right? So let's provide a click event and let's call it as search. So there will be a search. Somebody clicks on the search button, and upon click of that search button, the previous data has to be shown, and upon click of an update button, the new data has to be stored. Okay, so I'll copy this. First of all, I'm doing a search by ID, so it will be just the search functionality. So here is my search functionality, so search method. And with this search method, the simple thing would be what? We are just gonna call the get by ID method. That means we are going to consume the promise that we have made in the service. So let's go ahead and do that. So this dot car service dot uh, search car by ID, and we are going to provide this search ID there, this dot search ID dot subscribe. And once again, upon subscribing of this method, there can be two results. There will be a data and there will be error. So if there is any error, I'll just console log it. And if the data is retrieved at that time, what I'm gonna do is I'll as of now I'm just gonna create a car object. Let's call it as car is equal to new. Car is, I think, already there, so let's call it as searched car is equal to new car. So a variable I'm creating, an object I'm creating of type car, which is empty as of now, and that car, the searched car is something which I will initialize here, will be equal to the data. So let's save it, and here I'm just gonna put up that values, whatever values are coming up into the search, I'm just gonna put up those things on my HTML, so that I can show you the details coming up from the API. Fine. So let's go here. Let's call it as a searched car dot ID. I want the name, I want the model and the maker. So those are the things that we want, right? So yeah, let's call it as car details, ID, name, model. Sorry, I think I have a maker there. Yeah, maker and color. And what we will do is we will just put up all of this under a pre tag so that it displays the details as it is. So let's save this and go to the API and see the result. So search by ID property does not exist, that because you can see that there's one file that is unsaved. So I'll go and do a save all. So let's go back, and there we go. We have a search functionality implemented, but we will just put a BR break line here so that it comes below and we will be able to understand that separately here. So there is search, there is no car details as for now, right? And I will search the car. There are only two cars available, car 3. I'll search, I'll click on this search, and I should be getting that details. As of now, that details are not displayed. So let's go and inspect the element and check what is happening here. So let's go to the console. Yeah, so now the details are retrieved, that's fine. To car ID 2, let's click on search. Yeah, that's what we are getting. So we are able to search the data based on the ID provided. So it can either be car ID 2 or 3. If I provide in any other car ID, that will not be available there, right? So you can see that car details are not available. So if I provide in the available car details, I'm getting the car details. That looks good. Fine. So this is how we can search the data based on the provided ID. Alright, so let me once again share this all details. This is the search by ID. So let's copy this and put it into the repository. So this is our demo2 search by ID. First of all, we have the car hyphen service dot TypeScript. So this is the service data. Then we have the app.html created and an app.typescript. Only these are the three files that I'm changing. Fine. So app.html and app.typescript. Alright, so we are done with what? Get by ID and also delete by ID. Delete by ID and the get by ID are quite similar itself. Fine, because the URL is quite same, only the method is different. In get by ID it is a get method, and in delete by ID it is a delete method. Similarly, let us now try and update the things. Fine. So let's go to the code and try to update the records that we are searching. Fine. So let's go to the service and let's first get the update method ready here. So what I'm gonna do is I'll just write this as update or update car or something. Update car details or car data or whatever. So it requires an ID. If you remember the update stuff here, the put method, what it requires is it requires an ID and also it requires the body, right? So two things are required. So we know that in the previous examples itself we have already given the path variable, so that path variable has to be given. Next thing that we require for an update is gonna be an object. So I'll just put a comma here and I'll create a car object here of type car. Fine. So that's done. And the http method here, obviously it is going to be a put method, and this put method is going to return me a car object. So that's what I'm providing. And put method takes two arguments, the ID it takes and also the second argument is the object that it takes. So I'm providing in the ID as well as the object. So let's just save it. So my update method is ready. So service methods are pretty simple and straightforward. No not much hard coding into that, right? So simple methods, just change the method name, whatever it takes, the arguments like ID and the object. Obviously the objects will be required for a post and put because they need a request body there. Fine. So the next thing is that I will have to get this HTML ready and consume the method that I have created there. So what I'm gonna do is let's consume all this details that we have done there. And what I'm gonna do is the very first thing which I'll try and do here is that when somebody clicks on search, I'll bring that data and display it somewhere. Fine. So I have this HTML search by ID. What I'm gonna do is this car details, whatever car details are retrieved, right? Either I'll store that there or I will store that here. Fine. So let's get this input type is equal to car ID and all that. So I'll just copy all of this. Let's create a separate thing for update. Let's call it as update begins here. So for update, we obviously need a search. We have to search it first and then we have to perform an update. So when somebody clicks on search, they will have this and it will have a searched car ID. Instead of displaying the ID, I'll not display the ID because I don't want the ID to be modified. And then what I would like to do is I'd like to do a searched car name, and all this property will be from searched car itself. Fine. So the search car maker will be displayed to the user and the color will be displayed to the user. And if a user wishes to update, user can just simply call up the update method. Fine. So we will just be doing this update, and yeah, so it'll be an update method. Let's call it as update car. And the update car, we know that it requires an ID, and we already know that the ID is being searched into this search by ID, right? Search ID, we know this. And update requires an object as well, the car object. So we know that that car object is the searched car object. So because we already have both, let's not give any argument to update. Let's go to the TypeScript now. I'll copy this. I'll go to the app.typescript. I'll come down, and from here I want the update to begin. Update, and that has a update car method, And we know that again we have a car service dot update car dot subscribe. So now while subscribing to this, I have to pass in two argument. One is the ID, that's gonna be search ID. Next one is the body, which is gonna be car. So this will be a searched car, that will be modified. Fine. So subscribe, we know that it takes two callback functions, like it's a promise. It can either be resolved or it can give us an error. Fine. So let's say if there is data, then do something. If there is error, then do something. If there is error, just console log it so that we can resolve that later. And then lastly, if there is data, then what needs to be done now? Just tell me that the details are updated. Alert data updated. And once the data is updated, I will also call the get cars method here so that the table gets updated there. So let's just save everything now and test our application whether the update is working fine or not. So here we go. Update begins here. Sorry, the button name is search itself, so I'll change it to update. Yeah, let's save it. And there we go. I need to search before I perform an update. I need to search the ID. That is, let us change this Ritz Maruti red color, right? So let's go and search for 3. So the moment I search for 3, it should retrieve me the details. Yes, it is retrieving the detail. And instead of Ritz, I'll make it something else. Let's make it Swift. Okay, and Maruti, and let's now just change only the car name. Okay, so let's perform an update. It says data is updated, and let's once again search for this car and check whether the details are updated or not. You can see that the details are updated. Let us now change two things now. So it is already changed to Swift and red, and what I'm gonna do now is I will simply go ahead and change this to Baleno and Maruti, and I will change the color here. Let's change it to white, and now perform an update. So after performing an update, once again I will search for it, and the moment I am searching for it, you can see that the details are modified. So this way you can perform an update. I have not written into different components. Writing this into separate components makes more sense. So in my next session I will separate them into different components. So now that I have shown you all 5 functionalities: get, post, put, delete and get by ID, I encourage you to write one more thing in there. So I'll just copy it and put this into the repository as an update functionality. So this will be demo 3 update. Okay, once again the car hyphen service dot typescript. So here's the service dot typescript, and the next thing is app dot html. So this will be our app dot html, and the lastly the app dot typescript. So you can also enhance this particular piece of code by implementing ng if and the functionalities that we have learned before, like you can implement the ng if, you can implement the pipes to search the details into the table, right? So where can you implement the concept of ng if, right? So you display the update details only if somebody has searched it, right? So if I come down to this particular page like this and see here, if somebody types in some ID here, like maybe 2 or 3, then only I want this details to be shown here. Else these details should not be shown, right? So what we can do is we can simply do a ng if and test if somebody has given the search ID or not. If the search ID is given, then only put up the details. So you can simply go ahead and do something like this here. So this entire stuff, the update and the search car details and all, I'll put everything. Let's say let's put up everything into a div. Okay, and this entire div will only be visible. I'll put it in this div. Okay, and this entire div will be visible only if, that is star ng if. So if and only if the search id is given. Okay, or what I can do is I can go to a search method and then say if it is visible then data displayed or something, and on that variable I can do it. Like for example, now if somebody, you can see that the car details and everything is not displayed now, right? So if somebody gives in the details, then only this data will be shown to. Fine. So else what I can also do is, instead of the search id, I can go to this app.typescript, and when somebody is searching the details here, let's call it as show update is equal to, or else show update equals to false now. And when somebody is searching the details, the search car data, if you get search show update, right? Show update equals to true. So this show update will be true only when the update happens. So you can save it. Now once again we can go and let the user type in 3, nothing will be displayed. If the data is there 3, we will search it, then only this details will be displayed. Similarly, if somebody is searching for something like 1 or 2, at that time the details are not visible, right? Because there is no data. That's why update option is not given to you. So that way we can utilize the knowledge that we have gained in our previous session. So hopefully you have understood every single thing with the REST API. I have implemented all 5 functionalities. So in previous session I already implemented a get all. So you can see that the get all is there on this particular table, and also I showed you how do we add a new car, then searching the car by ID, deleting the car, and also updating the car. So all 5 functionalities we are done with. I encourage you to also implement things like this. So if you remember, I showed you there can be a get based on the color black, right? So you can search not only by ID, you can search it by this. So again, pretty simple. In the URL you pass in something like this. Fine. So whatever your URLs are there, based on that you can search for the details. But one important thing I will tell you here, so instead of always searching the data from an API, if you already have a get all, try to filter out the data from that table itself. Okay, so if you want to have a color based car, or maybe a maker based car, you put up a pipe, you create a pipe, and then search the detail into that table only. What advantage that brings up is you don't make an extra call to the API. So making unnecessary calls to API actually slows down your application, because in this case we have a dummy API, that means we have a fake API. But in real time what happens is that you are actually talking to some other machine. So when you make a request, it goes to that particular machine, and that machine makes a request to the database processes the data, gives it back to the REST API, and that REST API gives you the details, right? So instead of making API requests, and API requests are very expensive, they are costly. So ensure that if you already have a get method, you don't provide in all the path variables and search for these type of details there, right? So you create a pipe, and you search the details into your data that you have already retrieved. That will be a good idea. So I hope you're enjoying this series. If you're enjoying this series, do like the videos, and comment on the videos, share this content with your friends, subscribe to my channel. That actually motivates me to create more such content. Thank you. See you in the next session.